and I know that a couple people had some blank. Are there any that when you're looking at it, really unsure of answer or had an idea, but it seemed to be at best guess, like just a pulling a straw kind of answer, where you really weren't sure about what it was asking for? So are there any that folks had left blank that when you're looking at it really had no idea where to go with an answer? Start with any of those. 6. All right, so here's 6, 6, 11, and we'll certainly just kind of start to circle these. There we go. 6, 11, any others? Okay. I'm going to start with some of the others to kind of build up some momentum. Oh, we still got more. 15? Gia? 13? You said 13, right? And any other? I don't know if we're going to hit all of those for you, but we're going to start with one, and then we'll work our way through. But I want to make sure we definitely do hit some ones that folks had some questions about. Yeah. Yeah.
Were you on Jeopardy?
I started with the A's and the dictionaries, and I just went through the. That was faculty Jeopardy last year on that. Which is still very important. So, number one, I know this wasn't one that was mentioned, but I want to kind of start with these two, and then that's going to parlay into some of those other questions that we have. What action has Mildred taken, and what does this show about her overall values, and what does she mean when she simply goes with everything's gone now? Beyond simply she has her suitcase packed and she's ready to go, because that's certainly an action that she has taken. What is the big decision, though, the big action that she's done at this point? She is the one who calls in the alarm. So she is the one who, essentially, by calling in the alarm, what are you also doing? You are turning in your husband, and very well could end up having some ramifications for her. But she is the one who, quote unquote, kind of calls in.
Bitches get stitches. And a brick for them.
Now, value-wise, what's this telling us? If she's going to call the alarm on her husband, if she's going to turn in her husband, what's this telling us about value so far as priorities that are going to be for her? We have written for 1. Yeah. She has. Okay, so lack of loyalty, at least to her husband. And we would say she has no loyalty to her husband or family. I bet she would probably counter that by going, what does she have loyalty to? Which she would refer to as being her family. That would be the word that she would kind of throw in. So she has a lack of loyalty to her husband or to her, at least at this point, real family. What this really kind of illustrates is now that for no question, the TV family, if we're going to go into math equation, is going to be greater than Montauk or probably any other individual, any other kind of human being that would be out there. So TV family is going to be superseding everything else. What reinforces that? Well, when she says everything's gone now, that's what she's making reference to with her TV family being gone. For her point, she has basically no hope at that time. So value-wise, humans, less than what we're going to have so far as technology. You're not going to have any maximum stuff. You're not going to have anything so far as value for information, learning, personal ideas, and things, thoughts for other people. Everything's going to be more so what we have with the TV. For us, and this could be within context of the text, it could also be universal as well. Attitude or aspect of human nature when it comes to fire. What does it ultimately end up being symbolic of? I'm not worried about the text. When it just comes to us, what do we think of with fire? What's going to be terminology we go with? Like a burning fire? Pardon? Anger, rage. Hayden, you think fire, what comes to mind? Yeah, when you think fire, what comes to mind? So, pain. If we have burning, we have destruction is taking place.
But it always starts off calm.
Tends to. You have a spark that turns into something greater. Hold on. So you have something that it could simply be a spark, and then that could lead into something that is greater. What can be benefit of fire? What'd you say? So warm, comforting, and you think back to the first chapter that we had. It was the hearth and the salamander. Hearth is going to be something that's a little bit more comforting. So with the human nature aspect that fire ends up being symbolic of, it can be pretty much any of these things. But Beatty's philosophy of burning a problem rather than facing it, this is going to come with the idea that it is certainly easier for Beatty, which of these things is he going to look at fire as being? Based on what we know about him as a character, which of these would he be looking at?
Anger.
I'd say probably that anger and destruction is going to come in. So it's going to be easier to destroy a problem than to face it. Burning that problem is that overall kind of destruction that's going to be taking place for it. All right? So attitude or aspect is fire symbolic of. It can be a whole host of things, but when it comes to Beatty, the idea is certainly going to be more so destruction. The fear that Millie has is certainly going to be destruction because of the idea of family being gone. All right, number 6. Tyler, I know you said about going to the bathroom. I want to get some different ideas for this one. What do you have for 6? So what is remarkable and disturbing about the declaration of war seen at the gas station? Okay, Montauk's the only one worried about. You can sign up fast. Other things we have for number 6. What do you mean? So only one person who, building off what Tyler said, like aware of it. So with this declaration of war that is taking place, certainly the fact that only Montauk is aware of the war, or at least the declaration of the war, is disturbing because what are we insinuating the fact that he's the only one who knows about it, why that's going to be so problematic? If he's the only one who knows about it, or he's the only one who seems to be worried about it, what does that mean about everybody else? Not lame, but they at the very least would be unpredictable. So everyone else is uninformed or does not have the desire to be informed. So you can be uninformed because you don't have the opportunity to learn something, Hayden, okay? You need a drink, go grab one. But everyone else is either uninformed or no one seems to have the desire to be informed. So if we're going to put with this in one word, then you're surrounded by a group of people who are apathetic or callous. So problem. Max, you're going to want to jot this stuff down for number 6.
Oh, sorry.
So for number 6, the problem that you have then is you have a society of people who seem to not care about anything that is going on that is uninformed. That's why you want to make sure you're listening to. What would be things not worried about within the context of the book? What are going to be that parents or adults are going to be complaining that children or teenagers or whomever are going to be uninformed about. So within today's own world, what are things that people are going to complain that we're not informed about?
The news.
That's fine.
Actually, no. What the government has of Area 51.
Well, that's a big one right there. Well,
I bet it's probably easier to step back and kind of go with, at the very least, government.
But you said pretty specific.
What's history clubs have announcements for sign-ups downstairs? I'm saying with seniors,
I don't know.
which is not going to be obviously pertaining to sophomores, but they have a whole thing about voting. So there's concern about people not being aware about what would be going on with the government. There's certainly going to be concern for some, probably when it comes to parents, is you're going to go off to college or you're going off into the workforce. Are you informed about how bills are going to work, the amount of money that it's going to take to support yourself? If you're going college route, loans, and how all those things are going to work. So certainly those concerns when it comes to is the populace uninformed or not is something that Bradbury is looking at, and his concern is that if people are so focused on other aspects besides not just books, but simply kind of thinking that you're going to have apathetic, callous people who basically are not going to have any chance for their own kind of existence. If they don't have a chance to survive in the real world, what's going to happen to them in this world?
They're gonna die.
The city's going to explode because there's going to be a declaration of war that's taking place, and they're not going to be able to prepare for it.
World War II.
So it certainly will. At this point, it's going to be multiple after,
maybe
because they've already had multiple atomic bombs. They've said since 1990.
No, that's good. Yeah.
Hey, what are you saying about the point?
me?
Yeah.
I said maybe that was their point in time. Maybe they're gonna make everyone dumb.
Well, it's not the fear that they're going to make people dumb. It's the fear that people aren't even worried about. From Bradbury's standpoint, it's his thing. But no, you take a look at other books out there that that's going to be a primary concern that they would certainly have. Number 11. Why do you think Montauk is sure that Clarice has walked along the railroad track before? What's our location for the railroad track? Where are we? By the river. We're in the woods. And we are outside of the city. So, by the river and woods. Not going to grandmother's house.
Wait, I feel like I've heard of. I watched a movie about this. What did they say? He says, or no, it was Snoop Dogg. He says there's some creepy cabin in the woods by a river.
I think you're confusing your sources.
No, I'm talking about scary stories.
Wow.
Me and Khalid
Why?
Oh boy.
Why then? And I'd say based on the first two pieces of information, river and woods, why would he be convinced that Clarice has been here before?
I never knew that.
What do we know about Clarice? Jason, what's one thing we know about Clarice? Answer's not going to be on the paper. I'm just asking. What's one thing we know about Clarice?
She starts with a C and ends with
Nah,
a C.
just need one thing. Think about it. Hannah, one thing. Okay. So, prefers nature. Tyler, what's one thing we know about Clarice?
She doesn't like. She likes to talk to her family.
Okay. Talks to family. Nick, anything? That would or wouldn't? Would. So we'll say like books with the idea that this would be probably, even though she never shows. Jason, anything else? All right. You got some characters to think about. Yeah. So sensory. Leaves smell like cinnamon, dandelions, and all that kind of stuff. Where's it? All right. Unfortunately for her, ironically, what happened, sir? How? We think that she's hit by the car. Okay. So one of the fears, one of the concerns that's going on socially at that time is going to be the recklessness that's going to be happening with cars and technology. So the opposite of what she likes is what ultimately kind of brings her down. Now, where would she be at this point, or where is he at this point? Well, he's outside city, so a place where the idea of exploring, the fact that she's not from there, that she comes from other places. Beatty mentions that they're his family too. Beatty says that her family came from, remember which city? Chicago. So they've been kind of moving around a good bit. It would seem like something, since she is so focused on exploration, sensory, avoiding technology and all that kind of stuff, prefers nature, that this would be something that she would want to do. So this seems to be much more natural for humans to experience, as opposed to what what Mildred is doing with her TV family. Since this is more natural to experience, it's something that he would associate with Clarice. Much more organic, much more natural, something that would seem that would be innate, intrinsic within every single person. All right. So when you have a question kind of like this, and this can be a difficult one to answer, think about what we know about the person, what are different traits that are going to apply to him or her, and then that's where we can kind of start to get a link to those two. I know 12 wasn't one that that was asked by people, but how does the chase end for the TV audience? For this first part, as far as the audience is aware, what's happened? And that man is going to be, as far as the TV audience is knowing, that's going to be Montauk. So how does it end? Montauk gets captured. But we know that this doesn't really happen. Montauk ends up being captured. How is this accomplished? Well, the police end up using essentially a what? A front facade scapegoat would be a person who kind of end up taking the blame for someone else. But Montauk is captured because the police find a scapegoat. What's the person doing that ends up becoming a scapegoat? He's just walking outside. He's a pedestrian. So again, we talk about those parallels that are going to be taking place between what happens in Fahrenheit 451 and Bradbury's other story with pedestrian we read earlier. The idea that if you're simply walking outside and you're minding your own business, you're still going to be looked at as being a threat, and you're still going to be something that's going to be looked at as being expendable and someone else can do. What explanation do the men give Montauk for the way that the chase ends? Well, it has to end. That has to end favorably so far as for the police stand, and so you need to have some kind of final conclusion that's going to happen with that capture / death that's going to be happening for the scapegoat. But it would totally be an innocent individual at this point that hasn't done anything wrong, that ends up being the victim for what's happening with the hound. Why does one of the men tell Montauk, don't judge a book by its cover? Number one, who are the men? Can you name one? Granger's going to be our head one. So who are these men? These are the quote-unquote, men in the woods who are being led by Granger. How can we describe the men besides saying they're in the woods? Well, what do we know about them? It's not man in the woods, it's men. Okay, so they memorize books. Josh, you have any books memorized? Nothing. Besides Cat in the Hat, like besides saying Cat in the Hat.
One fish, two fish, red fish.
But what's from the book? Not gonna get you very far. Okay, there you go. Age. Yeah, they're not young for the most part. I want to use the word wise, not meaning to be mean towards them, but say old, and if there was another adjective, probably would start with a T. Outside, by themselves, not a whole lot around. Kind of, if they're already old, it's going to be a little worn. And Katie is feeling this right now with her non-death flu that she has. She does not have that. How you feeling, Katie?
They had irritable Down syndrome.
Feeling tired.
Irritable Down syndrome.
So, Katie, are you always tired?
Yes.
All the time?
I'm always
No,
tired.
you're not.
Yes,
No, you're not. If Katie were to come in tired one day and simply said, "Don't judge a book by the cover," what she literally means, and we know the cliche is, "Don't judge me based on upon how I look at this one time." So you have a group of men who are old, who are worn, who are tired, who are standing around their little fires just trying to stay warm. Don't judge a book by its cover. They seem very, think of an H term. Oh yeah, hobos. I put another H in front of it.
Sitting around, just standing right by this fire, holding their hands up, talking the Bible, hands
Harmless. But what are they looking to do because they memorize books? You got to start somewhere. So you got to start with the old, tired guys who are homeless hobos sitting out by the river. But these are the people who could end up constituting or initiating some kind of change. Max, head down to CRC.
Goodbye, everybody.
Katie, what'd you say about fire
Hot.
from before? You said it starts with a spark.
And it can be comforting.
So, what are these people basically looking to try to be? They want to be the spark that is going to constitute some kind of change. It can happen. The big news then for Montauk, and Faber would be, even though Faber's not there, what does Guy think he could be so far as when it comes to memorizing books, whether it's the Bible or Cat in the Hat? As far as he's concerned, he very well could be the only one that's out there. What do you now have? You have more people. You have strength in numbers. So you have your spark, you have your little initiation that this could kind of lead to maybe some kind of change could ultimately take place. Well, there's another little detail, though, that gets kind of thrown into that. What's our closing scenes? Why? So you have the bomb that's coming over, bombs get dropped on the city's pretty much up in flames, so what do you have to start with? Whatever you have. So you have these old guys, you have these guys out here in the woods who could kind of be the new beginning. If that's the only thing that's left, then that's perfectly fine. But Granger has this comment about building a mirror factory. What are we going to do? We're going to start with a mirror. Why start with a mirror?
About self-understanding.
I would agree. What links that with the mirror? Okay, so you see yourself, which is going to be the total opposite of the TV walls. So if you are able to see yourself, that's when you can know yourself, and that's certainly when you can have that word, that idea of self-understanding that Hayden is saying. So it's certainly meant to be symbolic. We're going to start with a mirror factory because when people look into a screen, they're going to actually have to see themselves as opposed to seeing something else. So we're going to kind of start with who we are. We're going to start with who we know. And, you know, Katie, we're kidding aside, talking about, you know, old guys who are going to lead this revolution. If they already have the books memorized and everything else is completely wiped out, you start brand new, where books could be a big part. What's the capital of Arizona?
No idea.
New Mexico.
That's a Phoenix state. Phoenix. What's a phoenix? It's a bird.
A rising bird.
That it's consumed in flames, and then it comes back. I think it's like every 500 years or something along those lines, a long time. But you certainly have this idea of that kind of rebirth that is going to be taking
Why are they
place.
called the Phoenix Suns?
Tomorrow. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Tomorrow, the sheet that we were looking at last week with chapters 2 and 3, had for parts 2 and 3, where there are a lot of symbols. Saying this would be the one that you've already kind of knocked out, the symbol sheet for part 3. You want to make sure you have that sheet with you for tomorrow. It's not homework assignment, but that's going to be kind of our starting point. That I'll have you do a little bit of work with it, and then we're going to talk about those symbols. So kind of keep going more so with what we have here with these last couple of questions, as opposed to just like what's lower comprehension. But if talking about characters, like Clarice, Millie, Beatty, Granger, and you're going, I don't recall a whole lot about these people, those are going to be details that you're going to have to definitely be looking over for Wednesday of next week. Remember last time we had the metamorphosis test, we had a little bit of your holiday gift, because that one was an open book partner test. That's not happening with Fahrenheit 451. And that's not meant to be a threat, but just so you know, it's going to be you individually. So don't expect open book, open notes, or anything kind of along those. What are you going to? What, the one that you took for today? That's where I was walking around. I was marking down the points for it. So, yeah. So the points are in it, but they'll be in before. So homework at this point is just make sure that you are up to date with the book, but have part 2 and 3 symbol sheet ready to go tomorrow. You'll be able to kind of break off into small groups, work on some things. You have the page numbers for it, and then we'll talk about it. Some of them are going to be fairly clear. Some of them, like a bunch of references to like the Beetle taxis and all that kind of stuff, doesn't seem like it's going to make a whole lot of sense initially.